You've just walked through the front door after a busy day, and you are welcomed with piles of shoes and jackets and clutter sitting in your entryway. So much for a warm welcome. Your entryway is one of those places that really sets the tone for your entire home, so let's tackle that clutter and get it under control. And if it's cool with you, we're gonna start off this video in a college course fashion. We're gonna start with Entryway 101, the basics. We're gonna fly through these really quickly, and then we're gonna get to 102, 103, and you're gonna be a pro by the end of this video. Designate a spot for everything. And I know it's a total eye roll moment. I used to roll my eyes when people told me to do the same thing years ago. It's so important when there isn't a designated spot for things like shoes, keys, wallets, Target returns, sports jerseys, and the like. All of it ends up in piles where you don't want it, maybe in the entryway or likely for some of you in your kitchen and on your kitchen counter and table. We don't want that. So simple things like hooks and shoe racks and the like are gonna be a designated spot for everything. And of course, you're gonna wanna teach and model and show your family what they should do with their things and where those things live when they're not in use. And speaking of shoe racks, use a shoe rack, use a shoe bench. And a lot of people don't take advantage of a vertical space for storing shoes. So if you just have one little teeny tiny shoe tray, that's probably not gonna hold some of the shoes or many of the shoes for your entire family. So get one that goes up vertically, maybe that sits against the wall. We have a shoe bench, which creates 2 tiers and just maximizes some of that vertical space that would otherwise go unused. It's also gonna help from dirt and mud being tracked into your home, keeping your home a heck of a lot cleaner. Set up a mail station or command center for all incoming paperwork, bills, mail, and the like. That way it has a spot to live before you get to it later. Otherwise, guess where it's gonna end up? On your kitchen counters or on an entryway table where you don't want it. As we round off Entryway 101, the basics, I'd be remiss if I didn't talk about decluttering. So schedule decluttering into your entryway at least seasonally. This is so important because as the weather seasons change, so should the things that sit and live in your entryway. Again, this is gonna help keep things organized and prevent clutter from building up. Congratulations, you are ready for Entryway 102. Some simple habits and systems you can put in place right now today to simplify your entryway and thereby the rest of your home. OHIO, which is one of my favorite acronyms in the world, and it stands for Only Handle It Once. Think about the times you come into your home or your entryway and you walk past your entryway, or maybe you just dump things on the floor, and ultimately you're gonna have to come back to them at some point and put them where you should have put them the first time, right? Handling them 2, 3, 4, 5 times before they get put where they belong. So OHIO is a friendly reminder and habit you can stick to as best as possible. You by no means have to be perfect for it to still be helpful. But even if you do this 40, 50, 60, 70% of the time, instead of dumping things where they don't belong, this is gonna keep your entryway so much tidier. So again, if you don't have designated spots for all the things to live, it's gonna be really difficult to OHIO because you don't know where to put it the first time. So if you have your spot for your mail, you have your spot for your shoes, you have your hooks for your coat and purse and the like, you immediately put it where you want it to live. And for all those times you're not perfect, which will happen, right? Sometimes we're in a rush and we're just busy or we forget to OHIO. That's when you bring in one of my favorite systems and routines. This is called your daily reset. So this is basically where you reset any space back to its baseline, tidied up, cleared up level, and anything that doesn't belong on surface areas gets put back where it belongs. So I do these in my kitchen, any clutter and mess hotspots, but once a day, usually after my kids come home from school. So after dinner, after school is that one time I do a reset in our entryway. I tidy up the shoes if any got left on the floor. I hang up the backpacks in case they didn't OHIO. Again, a lot of the times we do OHIO, but a daily reset is your backup plan to do once a day. It's called a daily reset for a reason. When you do these daily, it creates this really helpful habit and it prevents clutter and mess buildup and overwhelm, which is so beautiful. And you should and can teach these to other family members in your house. I'm not responsible for all the entryway daily resets. My kids also help. It is a beautiful thing. And let's also talk about having a designated spot for returns and donations. So many people just leave Target bags or receipts or things to remind themselves in the entryway that they need to return something to the store. Maybe an impulse purchase they got last week that they're like, hey, I actually don't need that. I'm going to listen to Katie and I'm going to return this because it's going to become clutter and I want my money back, right? So we leave it in the entryway. And and it starts to fill up and get overwhelming. And as you know from following my channel or listening to my podcast, stuff attracts stuff. So the intention might be to put that Target bag with those t-shirts that you want to return on the entryway table. And that's fine and good, but likely what's going to happen is other stuff is going to get attracted to that. And before you know it, the mess builds and builds and builds. And you're like, what happened? What happened? So one simple tip here is to lift things off your entryway table. If you have a flat horizontal surface area and you don't want it to be your catch-all spot, that could mean something really simple like designating one hook on the wall that you can hang donations to. Or maybe you notice that you are constantly having piles of stuff in your entryway to return to family members or friends that they loaned you. Again, have one hook that's designated with a bag on it for items that go in there. And then every time you go to your car, you see that bag and you can take it to your friend or family member to return it back to them, and it's off your surface areas in your entryway. Same thing goes for donations. If you have a donation bag hanging in your entryway, it's a friendly reminder to let stuff go. Now, I usually recommend having bins, but bins have to sit on a flat surface, and entryway is prime real estate. So if you can find an extra hook to designate for a bag where you can add donatables to it, do it. It will make a big difference, and you will declutter a heck of a lot more than if you don't have it there. And make sure to display only what is necessary. So that means limiting those adorable decorative items that you just bought at Target or were tempted to buy at Target, or you might be returning to Target after watching this video. Because again, now you know that stuff attracts stuff. Those really adorable pillows that are sitting on your shoe bench are going to attract more stuff to it. And if it's causing more stress than joy, let them go. Limit some of those things. And maybe just choose one or two items that you really love, display them prominently, maybe pictures or a painting, and let the rest go. Entryway 103. Is your hand getting tired of taking notes yet? Okay, you are getting so smart and you've got so many ideas to tackle your entryway, but do not forget this one. This is like, oh, you're gonna love it. It is to do this. Create a secondary drop zone. Now, I get it. Most of us don't live in our dream homes with these beautiful, expansive entryways. Maybe you have a split level and you walk into like a little 3-foot by 3-foot section. It can be really hard to figure out how to keep it organized and clutter-free. Or maybe you have a small spot like me where it's just a 2-foot space where there's not a ton of space that I can store things. This is why you need a secondary drop zone. A drop zone is basically a catch-all spot where you have a designated spot for things to live, right? Going back to Entryway 101, the basics. And this is going to limit the things that are in the immediate entryway area that is prime real estate. These things that you keep here, you should be using on the daily, maybe every other day. For things that you use once a week or every few weeks, do not keep them in your prime real estate entryway. A secondary drop zone could be a closet hallway that you have that's 10 feet down your hallway after the main entryway. Or in my home, I don't have a closet hallway, so I use our garage. So for things like raincoats, rain boots, things that I don't need every day, but still want barely accessible, live in that space. So essentially, you're creating a secondary entryway for yourself, and that's going to help reduce the things that go in your main entryway. I promise you, you will love it. You can use it for seasonal items, and you can also use it for things like sports equipment, sports jerseys, things that your kids activities that they currently might be in, but you don't necessarily want that in your entryway. You're going to put that stuff like that in your secondary drop zone. All right, total game changer, and you are ready to graduate. Congratulations. Your entryway is about to be clutter-free, tidy, organized, and so much simpler. Remember that you can make coming home each day a lot more pleasant when it comes to just decluttering a little more consistently. But if consistency is something you struggle with, make sure to click the video on your screen now.